market seems to be getting back on its feet. Of course, currently the banking sector sort of leading the way. What are the major market drivers and, of course, potential game changers that will significantly impact the market's performance today and, of course, during the rest of the week?
Yeah, like you rightly said, the banking sector has consistently, alongside probably conglomerates, consumer goods, led the way. I mean, more like set the tone for performance day on day, month on month in the market. And the point has to be made too that if you look at the statistics, I mean, we're talking about the banking sector alone accounting for about 34.56% thereabout of trading on the exchange. And there again, it stands to reason that whatever happens, particularly to the highly capitalized stocks in the subsector, would have a significant impact on the market. And having gone through the reforms and more like going through a phase of stabilization right now, it's natural to expect to see the banking sector continue to lead and dominate performance at the exchange. I expect that to continue in the short to medium term.
Well, William, do you think it is the banking sector that's going to continue to drive sort of the performance of the index, or do you think there's some other stocks that we should continue to look out for during the course of the week?
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't quite get the question, but to the extent what I could gather from what you're saying is yes, the banking sector will continue to drive the sector. In particular, let's just step back a little bit. Last week alone, the shares of First Bank, Zenith, Guaranty Trust Bank, arguably the most capitalized in the sector, accounted for significant price movement on the exchange, and that's a pattern that it's on. It has more to do.
But
with
William, I mean, let me just interrupt you there. Besides the banking sector, I mean, we did see the cement sector sort of pushing the market up earlier this week. Also, Dangote Sugar, you mentioned earlier, we've seen it sort of pulling the index down in the last couple of weeks when we saw a volatile market. So obviously, the banking sector isn't the only index sort of driving the market there.
Yes, you're correct there. But then again, you may need to step back a bit and look at the details of market capitalization. And you'll discover that, like the stocks you mentioned, Dangote Sugar, Dangote Cement, as individual stocks account for a significant, they will account for like among the top, maybe top 6 by capitalization in the market. So to a large extent, I'm not denying the fact that the sectors as a whole impact, their own sectors as a whole impact on the market. But I would also want to make the point that on an individual level, Dangote Cement accounts for about 1.6 trillion market cap, Dangote Sugar about 400 billion. Whatever happens, like what happened last week when Dangote Sugar lost about 9.1% overall, it would definitely have an impact on the market. So I quite agree with you that it's not just the banking sector. That's true. And I think it's even good for the market because, I mean, a situation where we have a deepened market that is not influenced significantly just by one sector will all go well for the overall market and the economy as a whole.
Well, William, we're also seeing Q2 coming to an end, and of course we're expecting results also from the financial sector. We're going to see investors taking positions. What do you expect in the coming weeks, of course, and in the coming days?
Again, if the trend the last 2 days seems to signpost my expectations. For one, we're looking at, you're right, Q2 is coming to an end. And naturally, discerning investors would want to take position. I see that happening significantly more in the banking sector and probably with the conglomerates and consumer goods. Again, we have to keep in mind that Q2 has been more like a more stable quarter in terms of we didn't have runaway inflation. We've had situations where inflation, I mean, like I said, GDP figures were not too exciting, but we've had a relatively stable macroeconomic environment. Save for our structural problems, I think the performance this quarter would significantly be better than Q1. To that extent, I expect to see investors take position, and that should impact positively on the market, particularly in raising the all-share index and the market cap.
But I
expect to see trend upwards, but I do not expect, I expect it to trend upwards gradually and probably peak towards the first 2 weeks, sorry, of quarter three.
So you certainly have a positive outlook, but I have to ask, we do have inflation numbers coming out next week, early next week. We've heard the CBN forecasting that we're going to see inflation sort of peak at around 14%. And we do know that majority of our investors are foreign investors who are sort of shaken by some of these fundamentals. So what is going to happen if our inflation continues to rise? Are we going to see this foreign investors sort of still playing our markets cautiously? What is your expectation in that area?
Yeah, on that point, keep in mind too, yes, CBN even the Bureau of Statistics has projected that we would rise to that level, but I have my own concerns will center more around the area of what happens on the external front, for example, in the Eurozone and all, because the figures here would rise, but I don't expect to see a steep curve, so to say. The fundamentals for inflation in Nigeria, I mean, our current situation, suggest that there will be a rise, but it's going to peak gradually. I don't expect it to peak significantly, but again, you're right. Foreign investors will be more concerned about such figures, and but I do not expect to see a sharp reaction, considering also that it's obvious that there are a lot of reforms going on in the market right now. There's emphasis. I mean, the recent problems suggest one thing: increased emphasis on corporate governance. We're looking at a market that's deepening. I mean, there was a signing of an MOU with Lotus Capital, bringing in Sharia-compliant products. We're talking about an NSE that has consistently emphasized the fact that it's looking at a deepened and more professionally run exchange. So I kind of expect that there's going to be a balancing out effect of these positive developments with inflation figures as they come. So I don't expect to see a steep, flashback, so to say.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Mr. William Uko, Strategy Officer at Diamond Bank, for giving us your take on the market.